G'day everyone. One question I get asked a lot at the markets is, can I use normal filtered tap water for my carnivorous plants? Well, my answer is always the same. It's best to use reverse osmosis, distilled water, or good old-fashioned rainwater. But then again, I thought, I haven't actually tested out filtered tap water yet. Well, this is what this video is all about. So this is the water filtration unit that we'll be testing. This is a Brita filtering watering jug. It consists of a single filter here. The tap water is poured from the top through this lid. It then filters down to the bottom where it can then be poured out through this nozzle here. So there's nothing elaborate. It's very, very simple. The water isn't pumped under pressure through the filter like my reverse osmosis filtering system is. But I'm just curious to see just how good this water has been filtered and whether in fact it is good enough for carnivorous plants. So my first test is going to involve tasting the water. I can't seem to smell anything at all. It seems to have done a great job of filtering out chlorine and all those other undesirable odours which you can normally pick up with tap water. Well, the taste is pretty good as well. I can't seem to pick up any undesirable tastes in there at all. The filtration unit seems to have done a good job of filtering out all those undesirable minerals or salts and has increased the quality of the tap water, at least for drinking anyway. So my next test is going to involve using a TDS meter. TDS stands for total dissolved salts. It basically measures the amount of salts which are dissolved in that water. And the reading will help me determine whether this water is good enough for your carnivorous plants. So I'm just going to pour this filtered water into this bowl for testing. Now I'm just going to get my TDS meter. You can see there how it's got a reading of 0. Now when I put into the water, we'll press the hold button to hold the reading, and you can see here that this water has a reading of 128 ppm or 128 parts per million dissolved salts. So what do the results tell us? Well, 128 ppm is way too high to use for your carnivorous plants. Now, if you would have looked at my previous videos, I mentioned that the maximum ppm reading you should be using for your plants is 50. So I wouldn't go above that. Of course, if you can go below 50 as much as possible, that's always best. Now, what's interesting about this result is that even though the water has been filtered out, even though the chlorine you can't smell or you can't taste, it doesn't necessarily mean that it has a low total dissolved salt reading. And this reading today with this TDS meter proves that point. Now, I have done a bit of research. I know that Brita do use good carbon filters. It's basically an activated charcoal filter, and it's also got an iron resin exchange filter in there as well. So basically what it does is it removes those chlorines and chlorides, and it also removes those leads, heavy metals like lead and copper. So it does a good job for preparing that water for drinking. However, I wouldn't use it for my carnivorous plants. So the great thing about having a TDS meter is that you can then explore and test different sources of water. You know, I used to think that all water that you buy would be good enough to use on my carnivorous plants. Well, I basically based that on the fact that I couldn't taste anything in the water. Well, it's not until I used this TDS meter that I realised that that wasn't the case. So yeah, not all water is the same. Some water is better than others. So as I said, get one of these TDS meters, get out there, explore the different sources of water, and then that will help you provide the best care for your carnivorous plants.